Hi, I'm Sandy Beales and welcome to Bass Hacks. In this session, we're going to be covering some important things for a modern bass player to consider when we're looking at bass effects, and we're actually in this short time going to build a small bass rig in order to do a festival run or a quick rehearsal, putting those essentials onto a small board. We're going to go through all the elements it takes, cabling, making sure it's all nice and neat. We're going to talk shortly about power. There's loads of different things we're going to cover. The actual effects that I believe personally are essential, and then effects that maybe we could use to spice up our sound a little bit and take it to that next level. Be as versatile, as employable as possible. We can use bass effects to enhance our sound. So here we go, let's do this. This is Bass Hacks with Sandy Beales. So first of all, when we're talking about effects, let's really think about what we need for the gig, what we need for our sound, what we need for the performance. It's a really personal thing and it's personal to you. What effects do you like? Don't necessarily be swayed by what everyone else has got on their board or what everyone else is playing. Same as instruments, what works for you, what sounds good, what's going to enable you to get your best possible sound from your instrument out to the stage. This is going to be a journey for you to go on and discover what works for you. So don't necessarily be swayed by what's going on. A lot of the time you can see when you see certain pedals that are popping up on everyone's board, it's like, right, I should probably check this out. So have a look at that. But it is a personal thing. So like I say, go on the journey yourself, see what you like. Some people love certain brands, other people don't. It's all about that kind of personal taste on it. So why use pedals on the bass at all, you might be asking. So as a modern session player or as an artist in the industry now, there might be certain sounds that we want to recreate that maybe are on the record. Maybe there's a lovely sine wave synth bass on the record that we want to recreate with our electric bass. In an ideal world, I would always like to take my Moog that you can see on the side out there with me. But it's not always the case. Maybe we've got limited channel lists from front of house. Maybe there are external reasons such as space saving on the stage that we can't take out a dedicated synth. I'm going to have to try and recreate those sounds on the electric bass. And this is where pedals are going to come in really useful. Now, it's not just about pedals that are going to affect our sound and make this crazy big sound and maybe distorted or whatever it may be. Sometimes utility pedals are just the first thing that are going to go on the board. Simple things we don't think about are really important. So let's start with that. First of all, on any board, anything that I'm going to be putting in is going to be this guy, the Boss tuning pedal. Or on my main board, I've also got a Peterson tuner as well. They're great, but these ones are amazing. Boss TU2 or TU3, kind of a bit of an industry standard sort of thing. You'll see them on boards all over the place. They're amazing. But also with this, it mutes you as well. So as you're tuning, it mutes you. Make sure your sound doesn't go out the front of the house. That's really important. You can also use it when switching between instruments to mute a certain instrument, which is great as well. Which leads us on to the next utility pedal. Also Boss, looks exactly the same. This one is a line selector, an LS2. Also incredible. Really, really good. When I'm switching between synth bass and electric bass live, or two different electric basses that have different levels, this guy is really useful because what I can do is control my independent levels, and I know if I'm on the A channel, the green one, my electric bass is going to come out of there, and my synth, no matter what happens over there, my synth isn't going to play. If I am on the B channel with the synth bass, I know that my electric bass, even if I'm holding it and it's turned on, full volume and everything, it's not going to make a single sound. Really, really useful pedal. So many different uses for this. You could send one out to an effects loop, which maybe got your delay or your reverb, and so you could have that as a separate effects loop. There is so much you can do. So pedal number one on my board, a tuner. Doesn't have to be these brands, by the way, it can be any brands. A tuner, line selector. I've started building my small fly rig. And like I said earlier on, we're going to put this together. I'm going to show you how I cable tie, all of that kind of intricate stuff. Maybe you're not so into, but I love it. But I'll show you that a little bit later on. Next up, how do we get our sound from our bass to the front of house? Now, a DI box with a nice inbuilt preamp is going to be really useful for that. I really like the SansAmp stuff, the Tech 21. There are loads of different ones. The EBS one also is amazing that I have. I've tried loads of good ones over time. There's so many good ones. It's not limited to a certain few brands. Whatever works for you. This is a big part of all of this. Whatever works for you. For me, this is great. I can control my tone from here as well. If I've just got a simple board set up, these three, I know I can get a really good sound to front of house. Simple DI out on there. We're good to go. If I can then start expanding this board, if I can then start taking it further, let's just say, for instance, I don't need any crazy effects, I don't need any distortion, I don't need anything else. What can I start putting on? This is next, compression. On my big board, my touring board, which I will show you later on, I have a Kali 76, which is just an incredible compression pedal, but it's massive. So there is a compact version, but the one that I've got is massive. It takes up so much real estate on a small travel board. It's not going to fit the purpose for this. So this is the Hyperluminal from Dark Glass. Amazing compression pedal as well. Few different settings on here for different styles of compression. We're going to go into compression a little bit later on, but here is our simple travel rig. We've got tuner, we've got a line selector, we've got compression, and we have our dedicated preamp DI box. We can get a pretty good sound out of these, and we know it's going to be consistent. Let's say if it's a festival run or something. So as I mentioned earlier, let's put these pedals on a quick fly rig. This one's going to be with the pedal train, little Metro one that we've got here. Obviously pedal boards come in all different shapes and sizes, but with the power, something I can really recommend is isolated power supply. So a power supply where it's got each output is isolated. They all behave differently, and I found that some of them are a lot better traveling to Europe and different places with the power, low noise. So experiment for yourself. On this board, I've got the one spot CS6, just because it's so low profile, as you can see. It doesn't stick out the bottom of the board. It's great. I love this thing. And also as well, I can switch some switches and I can get the 12 volt power for my OC2 or 18 volts for my Kali 76 if I take that. So again, a really good power supply, but something that's worth looking at yourself. Cable management as well, as geeky as this is, something I'm really into, making sure it's all nice and neat so I can just pick this up, put it on there. Nothing's gonna get snagged and caught. I can make things as quick as possible. So you might have seen people with these really nice clean boards. This is the trick. These little squares, we can stick them on and then cable tie around them. Probably wouldn't put it there. Stick them on and cable tie around the cables. I'm going to show you a quick time lapse now of how this looks. Okay, so as mentioned earlier on, obviously a big part of being a modern session player or a modern musician is being able to get all these sounds from our pedals and our effects. We're going to jump straight into the board and look at what we have here. So starting on the bottom right, you can see that line selector. As I mentioned before, electric bass, synth bass can be balanced against each other, maybe two electric basses, maybe another instrument, but we can balance them against each other with this line selector box. Just so I've got even levels going to front of house and monitoring. If we're just running one line rather than separate lines for a synth and electric bass, we can put it all through one channel, make it nice and clean. Then you've got the tuner, as you can see, pretty standard. This tuner is quite nice, it's got a buffer built into it as well, so that's obviously really great. Also, first thing we're going to look at in the sense of actual pedals on the board, we have the Empress Eq. Now this EQ pedal is going to give me my kind of solid foundation sound. I've really delved into what I want from my bass sound, and I really recommend other bass players to do a similar thing. Have a look at what frequencies you want to boost. One thing I can really recommend when running any sound, getting any sound sorted, is one of these. Not necessarily this one, any kind of loop pedal, even if it's in a DAW, in Logic or whatever. Loop your sound and make the changes as you're listening to that loop, so you know what you're listening to is an exact representation. It's never going to change. It's just a solid loop, and you can tweak your sound, listen to your sound as it's being looped round and round and round one of these. Also, it frees up your hands, so you need to worry about, oh, playing a little bit, tweaking, playing, tweaking. Get a simple little looper. It doesn't have to be anything crazy expensive. It can just be a really small, simple one, and then you're flying, and it's all good. So with the EQ, I've kind of made it the sound that I like. Boosted some of those nice lows, made it quite clean, warm sound, but with a nice high end in there as well. I don't like a massively mid-rangey tone, so yeah, it's kind of set up the way I like it, but again, personal preference, set up the way you like. So here's kind of my bass sound behind all of it. And then if I want to do something to give it that bit more grit and drive, if it's something that's required from me, I might jump in and do something with a distortion pedal. For this one I've got the Dark Glass B7K. It sounds a bit like this. This is not really the bass I would normally do this on, but I'm going to keep it all in the same one just for the sense of this demo. Here's the Dark Glass. Pretty nice, pretty gritty, pretty drivey. It's got up the high end, it's got that real nice, real good sort of solid tone throughout. Obviously with the Dark Glass as well, and this is something I would recommend looking for with drive pedals, having a blend knob so you can get that clean signal as well as a distorted signal. It's a great pedal. Okay, cool, and then moving on, next one on the signal chain is going to be, I've got another pedal set up, another EQ pedal which can be used as a boost, another Dark Glass one, a harmonic booster, but the reason why I've got this on the board at the moment, let's just say you've got a really quick EQ change between two different songs, so there's a tiny gap, or there's a segue, or there's no gap at all. Now on an active electric bass, this wouldn't be so much of a problem. We'd have a lot of active onboard preamp, maybe we'd have a bass, mid and treble control, maybe just a bass to treble, or any combination of any of them. And there may not be enough time in between songs to quickly change over my tone. It might be quite a drastic tone. We might be going from something that's a bit more kind of solid, steady eights, and then maybe what we're going into is a bit more subby, a bit more of that kind of reggae-ish sort of sound. The best way to do that for me in this scenario would be to just quickly click between those two different EQ pedals, and I've got that completely different sound. Obviously we don't always have the sort of space on the board or the facility to be able to do that, but if I can make my life that much easier, it's good to do. All you got to do is remember to turn it back again after you go, else you've got that big subby sound throughout the whole rest of the gig. So there's a lot mentally as well to get into this, program change and all these different things. The next pedal I'm going to show you guys is probably my favorite pedal, the Boss OC2. This is a really old pedal. They don't make them anymore, they haven't for a long time. There's the OC3 and the OC5 that are out now, but the OC2 has got this certain character to it, this original character that it's just something about it. It's absolutely amazing, that almost sine wavy type sound. It's awesome. I've got it set up in a kind of a setting that a lot of bass players use. It's really cool. Octave 1 all the way up, octave 2 down, and then completely the sound of the OC2 rather than the bass. It's an amazing sound, and if we're having to recreate a synth sound, an OC2 is a great starting point. low, deep, subby sound. It's amazing. I love it. One of my favorite pedals. Loads of good octave pedals out there. Whole range of them over the market. This is just one that really works for me. They've all got different characters, all got different sounds. They're all great. Find what works for you. Okay, we're going to move on to the final two things we're going to look at. First of all, we're going to look at synth pedals. So we were talking before about synth sounds and being able to recreate synth sounds on the electric bass. There are certain pedals now that really take that to the next level, and this is one of them. This is the C4 Synth by Source Audio, but again, there are loads of good ones out there. This one's just incredible and I absolutely love it. So let's have a little play around with this C4 Synth, recreating those synth bass tones on electric bass. Just amazing. So nice. Alright, let's have a listen to another sound. So then we can go really deep down this rabbit hole and go for a really synthy. So endless amounts of fun, endless amounts that you can create with that. A really, really cool pedal. And obviously with all of these things, it's kind of limitless how far you can go. So you can get this kind of crazy swell sounds. You can take it wherever you want. Endless possibilities with the synth pedals we have now. And then finally, we're going to talk about the HX Stomp, which kind of combines everything we've been talking about before. Multi-effects pedals have come such a massive long way from where they were before. When I was a student, they were very much a really kind of not a great resource. They weren't brilliant back then, but now they are utterly incredible. On this board, I've got the HX Stomp. There are loads of really good ones. And you could essentially take this as a standalone unit. You've got a tuner built in. We could build the compression, the EQ, all these different effects, have them as program changes, do it all in one box. So if I was doing a quick flying gig and I had to fly out somewhere, just had hand luggage for instance, I could do it with the HX Stomp. So that is an option. But a great pedal. I'm using it on this board to control MIDI and enjoy a few different things. It's awesome. It's such a cool pedal, worth checking out. And then compression, like we mentioned right at the start of today, compression is really important. And basically what compression is going to do is it's going to squash your signal a little bit. Not necessarily in a negative way, but just those really high, really loud notes are going to be brought down a little bit. And the really quiet notes are going to be brought up a little bit in volume. And you can choose how much of that you have. How much do you want that to be narrowed and squashed? Do you want just a little bit of compression, or do you want it to be quite highly compressed, really kind of tight, direct bass sound? You can choose that with compression. Just be wary. Be wary of going too compressed and compressing it too much, losing the life and character of all your sound. So I hope you guys have found these bass hacks interesting. This is a topic I could talk about for a long time, but I won't take up any more time. Absolute pleasure, guys, and I look forward to seeing you all on campus soon. Take care.